All right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Ray Anderson, along with Ron Burgess and Ed Lasak. We're going to do another Three Amigos. Today, we're going to focus on something that's been a real part of my life for a long time, and it's the Malcolm Baldridge Award. We're going to be talking about a little bit about why Baldridge and how it can be a real path to performance excellence. Recently, we've had a number of these things, including Ed talking about the EOS model and Ron giving us the diamond, etc. So without further ado, I'm going to start by moving forward on this. Basically, the Baldridge Criteria gives you the right formula that I've always seen. And the thing that makes it important is it's not something that's done on a regional level, but is the national model for quality that's been around since 1987 in the Reagan era. And the hope for this is that it'll give an organization leader the right formula and model. And as you see here on the screen, what it tells you, if you have agility and you have a great approach and you partner with good deployment, you get positive results. So let me move to the next slide. Just out of curiosity, guys, are we in the way here? I see me over on the left side, but I'm not sure if it's interfering with the.
No, it's good for everybody else.
Okay, great. So one of the things I want you to see is that the ratio of value to the program benefits are nearly 820 to 1, which is an astronomical amount of difference. In the early 2000s, the standard of the Department of Commerce, NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, compared Malcolm Baldridge against its Standard & Poor's, and they found that there was a huge benefit in being financially and being through the Baldridge. So that's another reason that you should be looking at this. I needed you to understand a little bit. This was put together when we had this real challenge with the Japanese and some of the things that were going on during the Reagan administration. And clearly Americans were moving and migrating to Japanese automobiles because they thought both the quality and the value in terms of their being more reliable, et cetera, was much stronger than American. So his observation and his director of commerce, Malcolm Baldridge, started this award with the intention of kind of creating something that would make us in America more effective, and there'd be an award for this. So there are categories, as you can see on the bottom. One is for business, and there are large businesses and small businesses. And small businesses are those with fewer than 100 employees. There's also a category for education and one for healthcare, and now there's also one for government. So these are the 1920 winners, the 2020 winners. ARRP, Elevations Credit Union, Wellstar, and GBMC Healthcare. What's interesting is about 65% of all hospitals in the United States have embarked on the Baldridge for specific reasons, because they found that it reduces the death rate among their clients. There's also a company on here, you see, it's called MESA, which is Corrosion Control and Integrity. It's a company out of Tulsa, Oklahoma that has won the award 3 times. And people probably wonder, well, why would you want to go through it more than once? But the observation I'm trying to make here is that once you have a disciplined approach to something, the more times you repeat it, the more effective you become. And whether it's the Baldridge or the EOS or Ron's value diamond, the idea is to be able to focus on something over and over so you become more effective at using it. And Mesa is obviously one of those companies that's really been able to do that effectively. And the results show it. So there are 7 criteria that help build value, and they're consistent with what Ed went through recently on the EOS. But basically you have leadership, which is how senior executives guide the organization and how the organization addresses its responsibilities to the public and practices of good citizenship. The second item is strategic planning, how the organization sets its strategic direction and how it determines key action plans to make that happen. Number 3 is customer and market focus, how the organization determines requirements and expectations of customers and its markets. Number 4 is information analysis. The organization's effective use and analysis of data and information to support key processes and the organization's performance. Next ones are human resource, how the organization enables its workforce to develop its full potential and how the workforce is aligned with the organization's objectives. Process management, how key production and delivery support processes are designed, managed, and improved. And all this culminates with data that comes out of each of these areas. And the way you measure it, you have to have specifically measurable data that you can demonstrate. If you can't, you get no score at all. So it's not about anecdotal data, it's about you being able to track and measure it against each of these 6 criteria. So there's obviously a lot of similarity between the Baldridge model, which I'll show you in a minute, and our 8 value drivers, which were developed by Ed Lasak. You know, and the point is that the more you focus on being able to interconnect these, the more benefit you get out of the process. Baldridge, as I might point out, is a balanced approach. And the point is, it's like top golfers. You know, you might be good on the greens or you might be good on the fairways, but the point is to be a champion, you have to be good at all of them and put it together. And so when you follow the Baldridge, it's not a matter of being good in one area, it's being balanced and being able to be effective in each of them. So here you can see the connection. On the left is the Baldridge organization, on the right is our 8 drivers. Basically, what you have to do is you notice the 2 ends are connected by leadership and results. In between, you have strategy, workforce, operations, and customers. And so the point is that the more you can connect those together with core values and concepts, the more likely you're going to improve your results and improve the organization's performance. So what I think we can kind of wrap this up a little bit. And what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the mini assessment that we were able to put together that's still very valuable. And one of the things that I'm hoping we can do here is I can show you how, and you can download a copy of our mini assessment to look at yourself. People who are at the gold level of the Baldridge will perform very highly on this and get 3s and 4s on every category, where those of us who are kind of struggling may find in some areas we're weak. But the point is that as you look at this and you do it, it can help you become more effective, identify where the weaknesses are, and kind of move ahead on it. So the thing that I like about the mini assessment, you don't need any preparation. It's a very effective low-cost assessment procedure. It'll give you a rough order magnitude. It won't tell you the good or bad, but it'll let you know kind of how you're doing against the 7 categories. And it'll give you a list of strengths and opportunities for you to work on improvement. Most importantly, it's a benchmark to begin your journey on the path to performance. So that in sum is kind of the tool. I could bring it up and then we could have a kind of a conversation about what this means and how it compares to the EOS and how Ron might see it in relationship to the value diamond. So without further ado, I'm going to invite you guys to participate, or I can bring up the assessment. What do you think would be more practical at this point?
I think a conversation on the model itself.
Okay.
I'd like just to ask a couple questions. I've been in business for a long time. I've never heard of the Baldridge.
Wow.
I think it's, after researching it for this program, I find a lot of value here. And I'm wondering, and when you have a result of 860 to 1 or whatever, like the return on investment, I'm just really surprised you don't hear more about the Baldridge model, because I think it's really got a lot of legs.
Well, it does, and you know, it's a lot of people aren't aware of it, but there's the national Baldridge, and then every state has its own version. Back in 2006, one of my clients received a bronze award for the state version of this, which was a big deal. You know, when they went to get the award, they were astounded at how many people were there and what an important event it was. So it's amazing, you know, people aren't aware of it. And again, like you said, it's, I think, one of the best known secrets in America in terms of how you can really organize your business and have practical application. As an example, with this particular process, there are a huge number of registered Baldridge assessors here in the Inland Empire, even in Orange County. So what we would do is we would have them come in for 4 hours and literally go through an organization based on their experience and give them a score that they could begin from. It was a baseline. Here, I'll show you the results we got from that because I think it's important. Here's an example, Clark Pacific, which is a company that builds glass fiber reinforced wall units made out of concrete and fiberglass. They said we were pleasantly surprised the core values of our company were aligned with those of the Baldridge. DynCorp, the CEO said, I was reluctant to get involved, but the assessment focused on areas that will help us in the most continual improvement efforts. We did the Riverside County Credit Union. We found the mini assessment very worthwhile and set us on the right track to make improvement. Inland Technologies, which is a company that does medical devices here. It's not fluff, it's practical business information. And this was the client that won the Bronze Award here. I was relieved to find the assessment did not chew us and spit us out. The recommendations were valid and good. So, you know, what we found is that it can be really helpful, and there's no reason we couldn't resurrect this and use it in a way to help clients that we think could benefit from these practices.
Ray, what does it cost to participate in these assessments?
The cost we did this for $300.
Wow. No. So that's the cost of the materials, but I assume that there are Baldridge specialists that can come along and help you through this, or do they not really?
Yeah, there are. Yeah, you can, you know, the point is that you can get people to help you, but the assessment was simply an effort to kind of say, okay, here's where you're standing against the Baldridge. Do you want to move forward with it, or do you want to just go ahead? Now, in the case of ABC Window, they literally decided at that time that they wanted to use the process to grow the business. And literally between 2002 and 2005, you know, I was there as a consultant, and ABC Window grew from 19 million in sales to 59 million in sales. And in that process, their quality was always up to par, and they were able to meet their end dates, given that that magnitude of growth could have completely destroyed them, but they were able to grow. Yeah. And then the CEO was able to sell the company at a handsome profit.
Mm-hmm.
One of the benefits from all these models is with quarterly meetings focusing on results. And I'm kind of asking you, because you're the expert of the group here, about Baldridge. Do they do something like that? Because I haven't seen anything like that. The assessment is up front, but the value is developing a strategic plan, having action plans, and monitoring it on a quarterly basis.
Well, that's the whole point, is that, you know, you cannot provide, if you want to do the Baldridge, anecdotal data will give you 0 points. So in other words, each of these is based on a point from 0 to 1,000, you know, so the maximum points you can get in the Baldridge is 1,000 points. The winners of the Malcolm Baldridge are in about the 700 range. So very, very, very few of them get the full 1,000. It's literally that difficult. But if all of you have is anecdotal data, you get 0.
Well,
so
I guess
words, if you're in leadership and you can't show a measurable result, in other words, how do you measure leadership? Well, we have a monthly review, and here's the measures we measure to know whether leadership is effective or not. And if they can demonstrate that, then the assessor will give you points for having measured it and being able to show that it's obviously something that you track and you monitor on a regular basis.
My point is that I think for any of these models to work, you have to have outside help. You have to have somebody from the outside, business advisors, making sure that the company is focusing on these important aspects and moving forward. And it looks like the Baldridge approach does a lot of work up front with the mini assessment, but how do you get these Baldridge folks out on a quarterly basis to view the progress that's being made and push the company to do better?
Well, the thing is, you wouldn't have the assessors come out on a quarterly basis. That's the responsibility of the company. But you could have them come out on an annual basis and see whether they made their goals for the year. So in other words, as they review their plan and move on to a strategy for the following year, the way they would do that is they could bring in the assessors to come in and say, okay, how did we do last year? And what are we going to do to move forward to the next year? And in between, they have the quarterly review to see whether they're on target.
I think
So do they have an implementation process also like EOS, or are you going to take us through that, or?
No, they don't. I mean, the
They
bottom
don't, they
line
don't,
is that,
okay.
There are three parts of it. There's deployment, there's implementation, and then there's results, right? So in other words, the strategic plan is, here's how we intend to deploy that. The implementation is, here's what we're going to do to make each of these work in this area, and this is how we're going to measure it. And the results are, on a quarterly basis, are we getting closer or further away from what we had planned?
Oh, I see. So it really is mostly a measurement device. I somehow thought that there were tools that went along with it that helped build, construct, and then measure it at the end. So it kind of feels like this is a great measurement device, but using the 8 drivers or EOS, are more implementation tools, and then this might work for all of them, actually, including the value diamond.
Right.
Okay.
Right. As an example, I've done comparisons of this, and we talked a little bit about, everybody, like at many clients have to have the European standard, which is a mini part of this, and it's the quality component. But the thing is, the Baldridge is not about just one component. It's about your, the global picture of how your entire organization works. So it makes it ultimately, it's a lot more meaningful because basically nothing is left out.
Yeah. Okay.
well, they all the models say that, but the real true value in trying to make this work is the ongoing management or outside business consultants or advisors that are helping the company move forward and pushing the company to do better. And
Right.
it's like Ron said, if you had this as your ultimate goal, you would have a third party that could assess what you're doing is working and to what
Right.
degree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be used as a key component to any other method that you use, whether it's the diamond or the value wheel. This shows management, hey, this is from an outside organization, and they're saying that we've made significant progress, or we
Yeah.
have.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And also I don't know, but I could foresee that any one of these 3 tools that we've talked about might benefit from a Baldridge assessment, because there may be pieces that an individual business owner might miss, or a team might miss, or the processes themselves perhaps don't emphasize one thing versus another thing. And so it would help kind of bring you back to a baseline in a way by showing you all of these different companies. Does it give you a comparison at all with like 700 points is what you need to get to a certain place? I think you had mentioned one time before that somebody that you knew of, came up with just a few hundred points, and they were pretty upset with how badly they scored on it.
You're right. Right.
Yeah. So I mean, that's
and the reason, Ron, it's like the 2 reactions we got, and these are the good ones, the positive ones. But we did have some in which the CEO was distressed, that he only got 100 points out of 1,000 points.
yeah.
And that was because, again, the assessor would come in, and if they couldn't find a verifiable, measurable standard for leadership or for processes, they didn't get any points.
So part of the gap in a case like that is helping to understand how to put together that measurable result. And that's
Yes.
where some of these systems that we've been examining over these last 3 or 4 meetings could really help. Is
Yes.
that someone who gets 100 points obviously doesn't understand what he's supposed to be or she is supposed to be doing in
Yes.
order to create either the scoring methodology or the data. You know, they don't understand. They think they're doing okay, but they don't have nearly enough data in order to be able to get the points.
Right.
That's a pretty, it's, I hate to say slap in the face, but I mean, it certainly would wake you up, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And
No.
I mean, if it were
It's-
me, I'd just kind of bristle and say, the next time we do this, we better be at the 600 or 700 point range.
Yes.
But if you don't know what you don't know, how could you ever get there?
Yes, and I think that's the important thing, and obviously we've had you talk about your clients in which you've been tracking marketing data for 20 or more years, in
Yeah.
which, when you ask and you want to know what adjustments to make, you can take the data and clearly define what adjustments have to be made because
Yeah.
and the truth is in most organizations, they're just guessing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And
I'm kind of
No.
looking at this as being a partnership opportunity for groups like us, where we go into a company and we implement our processes and have the Baldridge folks evaluate the progress that we made based upon the traction that we've made in moving the company forward.
you could do that.
It's
Yeah.
an outside company. It's like the seal of approval stamped on
Yeah,
some
right.
forehead.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a great way of doing it because it's not just what the consultants are saying. These companies we measured that we're working on against some type of standard, national standard framework.
Of excellence.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point is that, as an example, Texas Nameplate is another small manufacturing company that was a double winner. And their performance against their competitors is just mind-boggling. Now, the truth is the guy didn't want to become large, just like Mesa. His goal wasn't to become the biggest. His goal was to become the best, which is why, in this case, Mesa, went for the award 3 times because every time they go for it, they learn, everybody inside learns more about what excellent means and what their job and how they perform it links into that in some meaningful way so that they really feel like in a race they've gotten somewhere. It's not about themselves being best, but it's being linked in together with everybody else to be able to perform at a level that surpasses their competitors.
Well, it's kind of interesting when you talk about trying to build teams and getting everybody on board and enthusiastic and moving in the right direction. We all know how difficult that is to do, but
Right.
it's kind of it makes it kind of fun for a whole company to compete and
Right.
realize they're doing a little bit better and waiting for the awards to come out and seeing how they scored and did they get there, because you don't see everybody jumping up and down when you have a good profit year. The owners might be jumping up and down and they might have a little party, but they're not out there, and they may even distribute bonuses and so forth, and people going, hey, wow, got a bonus, but I don't really understand why. I guess we have
Yeah,
a good year,
exactly. Yeah,
but okay, fine. But
Right.
to be
Right.
able to say I'm part of the production unit and our production score was excellent and we really
Yeah.
did well against our competitors here. I mean, that's fun.
Right,
That's
right,
the kind of thing
right.
you kind of get that sporting
Yes,
enthusiasm going. I
right.
just think it's a great idea to heighten competition among all of the workers to say, look,
Right.
here's how we did. We're going to do better next year.
Right.
That is a
And-
great idea. I wish I had a business to do that for, just for fun.
Well,
We got some clients that could do this.
yeah, the building value concept is something you don't do 1 year. You do it every year. So
Right.
it makes sense that if you're going to do that, you're going to embark upon that and you want to show the value you're creating, you would want to do it every year and participate in this study.
Yeah.
Right, right.
But the one thing I think they're missing, and I don't know, maybe there is some talk about it, but doing a valuation on a company every year makes a lot of sense. And showing how much incremental value you've raised that company's
Right.
valuation is
Yeah,
extremely.
that would be a nice thing to do. I don't know if you want to make that quite as public as you would say the Baldridge scores, because you'd have people asking for raises if you did well.
Well,
Which is fine.
and
fine.
truthfully, that's okay. If you're doing
Yeah.
well,
They
everybody
should.
should be able to get a bonus for doing that.
That's right.
And they know if I achieve this level in this task and this function, then there's a reward attached to it. And it's kind of
Well,
like you
right.
said, Ron, it kind of stimulates that competitive juice in which we're a team,
Yeah.
and together we're going to make this happen.
Right.
And I know
Yeah.
that when we did this at ABC Window, there was no question that everybody was aboard.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
We used to do daily meetings because one of the challenges in that was, you had, as you all know, when you don't know whether something's coming in or not, and you got the production team and you got the order team, you got the quality team. Every morning we'd meet and say, okay, what's going on? What's happening? And if we found that we were late on some product because we weren't getting it in, we'd shift over and we'd move to another one, and everybody participated on a real teamwork level. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Ray, can you bring up the slide again that shows how the rate of return on this program?
Yeah, let me, it's not the rate of return, but I'll hold on. I'm going to share the screen again.
It was a multiple, I believe, 1 to 830.
Yeah, what a
Yeah,
multiple. I haven't seen a multiple anywhere near that. And that's what they're putting out in their literature?
Yeah, I got that from the website this morning.
That's something. So who in the heck would say no to
Yeah, right.
this? You have to
Why?
be crazy.
Why would you not aim towards that if that was the return on your investment?
Yeah.
All right. So there it is. Let's see. Did I share it? No, I didn't.
It's not
I
shared
wanted you to
yet.
see this. This is the takeaways from both the EOS and the Baldridge. And the 6 points in this is you get a structured model to create aligned value aligned with the vision, complete accountability with weekly checkpoints. You create a performance-based culture, nowhere to hide. And this is what you were alluding to, Ron. I mean, it's like everybody's aboard and everybody knows what they have to do. You can get a community of trained examiners come in and look at it. It's like, you can't hide anything. They'll come in and they'll tell you you're doing it, and it's internationally recognized. A lot of the models in Europe and elsewhere are now moving in the direction of the Baldridge, not the other way. And in addition to this, on the NIST site, you've seen my simple one sheet assessment, but you can get a much more detailed one by downloading it right from NIST.
Great. Now, Ray, how would you compare this process to ISO?
Well, that's the ISO is basically a subset of the Baldridge.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's the quality function of the Baldridge, but the Baldridge is talking about leadership, training. It's all the other things. And what's happened is the ISO has moved in the direction of the Baldridge, not the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah. I know there's several other functions in there now.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So let me go back if I can. Are you seeing the screens?
Yeah.
Okay, so the ratio of the Baldridge program benefits for the U.S. economy compared to costs is 820 to 1. So in other words, by embarking on the program, the benefits outweigh the costs by 820 to 1.
Yeah.
Like I say, who in their right mind would turn down an opportunity like that?
Yeah.
That's right.
Right?
That's
So
right.
why isn't, it gets right back to the same question. Why don't I hear more about it? For companies that are selling, they always talk about building value, but very seldom do I hear Baldridge. I haven't heard Baldridge, in fact.
Yeah, no,
Well,
it's just amazing.
if this is a part of a governmental thing,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that would be the answer. And I'd
That's
say
the
the second part is that if they gave themselves a score, they wouldn't score very well on the marketing portion.
No.
no, no,
But
and that's so true. You know, that's
I looked
a
at the
very good
director's,
observation. But
look
there,
at
if
the
you look
director's,
at, you know, these results, and the thing that's important is that 65% of all the hospitals in America are now involved in the Baldridge process, even though they may not be going for the award. They have learned that the Baldridge process can do so much to be able to minimize patient risk that they've all embarked on it.
Well, that's
So
wonderful.
65%.
That's a pretty powerful number, 65%.
yeah,
Right.
it is. The director of this program for the Department of Commerce, I looked at his resume and it doesn't have I didn't see any remarkable business experience.
Yeah,
And that's
well,
kind
that's
of
very possible.
that's a shame with the government programs.
Yeah.
Well, I would just say for sure that I wish all of our different bureaus and divisions in government would use the Baldridge as well, because I think we might get a really good return on that money as taxpayers.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And like I said, you know, we did this at ABC window, you know, there was initially there was some reluctance, but the more we got into it, the more everybody realized, you know, what a benefit it was going to be to the company.
Yeah, that's terrific.
And I might add that the owner, Whitey Hegwer, was really, really happy when he came to sell it in 2005.
I would like to explore some type of partnership with them so that whatever we come up with are value added drivers, that we could utilize them for this outside perspective seal of approval. It could be part of the value we bring to a company.
Yeah, I think we should investigate that. I think it'll give us some leverage as we move forward. So with that, why don't we wrap this up for today? And then go, we can, from that point forward, Ron, we can talk further about how we might be able to link up with some of these Baldridge assessors who
Yeah.
work in the
Sounds good.
Just
Okay.
one final point, Ray. I looked up